To understand Bitcoin, you need to understand why it exists and what problem it was conceived to solve. When Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008 wrote the Bitcoin white paper, he titled it a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So let's just unpack what that means. Today, if you go into a shop and pay by cash, this is what your payment looks like. You pay the person directly, there's no middleman, no intermediary, nobody knows the transaction is happening except you and the person you're transacting with, and once the transaction is complete, there's no trace of it. If you buy using your bank card, this is what digital payments in traditional banking look like. Quite a bit more complicated than most people imagine. You swipe your card, the payment service providers authorize the payment and contact your bank and take their cut. Your bank takes its cut, then notifies the recipient's bank and the card scheme, who both take their cut. They authorize the payment, this transaction is sent to the recipient's bank and eventually makes its way to the recipient's bank account. Extremely complicated and extremely profitable for all those involved. On average, there are 17 parties, each earning a fee for every card swipe. These add up to $2 trillion a year, or $500,000 a second. Bitcoin was supposed to be a digital version of cash, simple, peer-to-peer payments. We were all sold on Bitcoin's ability to be trustless, peer-to-peer, unconfiscatable, decentralized digital money. By being all of these things, Bitcoin was supposed to be the ultimate form of money, independent from any organization and outside the sphere of governmental, organizational, or personal influence. Sadly, none of these qualities apply to Bitcoin any longer. Why? Partly due to the fact that it was the first ever blockchain, experimental in nature, and not designed to evolve. The other reason is that the people controlling the development of Bitcoin are no longer acting in its best interest. To say they are conflicted is an understatement. The bulk of the core developers work for Blockstream, which is the business that developed the Lightning Network. If Bitcoin were to evolve by a series of technical improvements, there would be no need for Lightning to exist. If you then look at who the investors are behind Blockstream, you'll realize why they want to hobble Bitcoin. One of their main investors is DCG, or Digital Currency Group. Who owns a big chunk of DCG? MasterCard. Enough said. Even if MasterCard has no direct influence on Blockstream, which I find hard to believe, at the core of Bitcoin are the very people who it was designed to destroy. Let's look at these four facets, one by one. Trustless, peer-to-peer. Today, if you own Bitcoin, you probably keep it on an exchange. So if you're making payments in it, it looks like this. If you do keep it on a local wallet, it's likely that you don't run a full node, because less than 1% of owners actually do. Why don't you run a full node? Because it's too hard. The blockchain is too large. It's around 500 gigabytes and takes weeks to get synchronized. One way or another, more than 99% of people who transact with Bitcoin are trusting someone somewhere, and they're not transacting peer-to-peer. So why is trust minimization peer-to-peer important? If there's an element of trust involved in owning or transacting with Bitcoin, then there's an element of control involved. The Bitcoin network was conceived to be free from outside interference. With trusted third parties acting as intermediaries, many of whom are legal entities who operate and are domiciled in heavily regulated countries, then they have to abide by the laws of the land. If the government du jour says jump, they say how high, sir. If a government says a wallet address is banned, or the coins are tainted, then they have no choice but to comply. Many of these agencies have supranational reach, so there's nowhere to hide. For instance, one of the biggest exchanges, Coinbase, paints themselves as the good guys, but when the US government comes calling, they jump. In 2020, Coinbase blocked the account of WikiLeaks Shop, an online store affiliated with WikiLeaks, which is known for publishing classified information and secrets. It was allegedly blocked due to the violation of the platform's terms of service. This incident generated controversy and criticism from supporters of WikiLeaks who viewed it as an act of censorship or political pressure. Even minors are getting into the game. Marathon Digital patented technology to censor transactions, refusing to include them into a block. So, I think we've conclusively proven that Bitcoin is definitely not trustless, which nicely leads us on to the next quality that Bitcoin no longer has. Unconfiscatable. The theory goes that Bitcoin is an anonymous or pseudonymous network, despite every wallet address and every transaction being visible in the Bitcoin block explorers. Nobody is supposed to know who owns what or who's spending what. But given that we've just discovered that 99+% of all Bitcoin owners don't self-custody their coins, and they nearly all use exchanges where they've been KYC'd. They've had to put their name, address, passport, and bank account numbers. There are easy ways to tie transactions to real people. To make things worse, there are companies such as Chainalysis and MasterCard-owned Elliptic who aggregate and acquire this data from exchanges, then sell it to anyone who wants to know, so that they can track and trace who actually owns what and who is spending what. As an example, Coinbase's major revenue line, if you look at their income statements as a public company, is selling this data to the DEA, the IRS, the Secret Service, and foreign intelligence agencies. So what, you might say? My banks already do this, so this is no worse than what we have already. Well, it actually is worse than the banks, because if you're a shopkeeper and you accept cash that was previously used in a crime, nobody will ever know. But if you accept Bitcoin that has been used for a nefarious purpose at some point in its history, that coin can become tainted, and due to the tracing services we just mentioned, it won't be accepted when you try to spend it later on. Did you know that almost 10 million coins went through the Silk Road website? For those that don't know, the Silk Road was an illegal underground marketplace. So if you're holding BTC, there's actually a 50% chance you're holding coins that are classified as tainted and are one bureaucratic order away from being unspendable. What's more, if you hold your tainted coins on an exchange that operates in a G20 economy, then those coins can be easily confiscated. Ross Ulbricht, who operated the Silk Road, had 144,000 coins confiscated by the US government. What many people don't know is that Ross had 69,000 coins stolen from the site in 2012. In 2020, the US Department of Justice managed to track down and confiscate these coins from someone who is known as Individual X. Not even the crooks are safe anymore, so what chance do you have? The laser-eyed Bitcoin maxis will be screaming, "Not your keys, not your crypto," at this point. But if the government can track you down and prove that you have coins that they want to confiscate, they can make your life extremely difficult. Remember the Canadian truckers? People who donated BTC to their cause were classified as aiding a terrorist organization and had their bank accounts frozen, their crypto confiscated, and in some cases lost their jobs and their homes. What's more, many governments, both federal and local, are now seriously legislating to be able to legally seize digital assets such as cryptocurrencies. I think we've proven that Bitcoin is definitely not unconfiscatable. Decentralized. By being decentralized, Bitcoin is supposed to be unstoppable and uncontrollable. Unstoppable because there's no single entity to go after to close it down, but thousands of nodes all around the world in hundreds of cities, all run by different people. Uncontrollable because there is no single entity that is large enough to control more than 50% of the mining network and thus be able to control the consensus mechanism. Without getting too technical, if you control more than 50% of the mining power, you could in theory control what gets decided when a new block is written, such as all the coins are now in my wallet. Satoshi's original vision was for one CPU, one vote. In other words, if you own Bitcoin and you mined on your computer, you had a say in the security and the consensus of the Bitcoin network. Unfortunately, things didn't work out that way. Nobody mines coins at home anymore. Today, mining is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Specialized computers called ASICs, all made in China by just 3 manufacturers, stacked by the thousands in data centers around the world, close to cheap energy supplies, cranking out mining for their corporate bankster-owned masters. More than 70% of the hash rate comes from miners in just 3 countries, the USA, China, and Kazakhstan. The top 3 mining pools control over 60% of hash rate. One CPU, one vote is total BS. The other thing that you definitely won't be told about is the backdoors that the ASIC manufacturers have into the mining hardware they sell. If you know anything about how business operates in China, then for ASIC manufacturers, you should read Proxy for the Chinese Communist Party. Don't believe me? Research ain't bleed. This information has been out for years. This quote from the researcher sums it up best. At worst, this firmware backdoor allows Bitmain to shut off a large section of the global hash rate, estimated to be at up to 70% of all mining equipment. It can also be used to directly target specific machines or customers. Standard inbound firewall rules will not protect against this because the Antminer makes outbound connections. Pretty scary stuff. There are even rumors that there are backdoors built into the hardware chips too. I wouldn't want the world's financial infrastructure running on a network that's beholden to the Chinese Communist Party or anyone else for that matter. Now, factor in that hardly anyone runs a node, and I think we can conclude that although the network is technically decentralized, it's far from optimal. Real threats exist to the Bitcoin network. Instead of being outside of politics, it clearly has the potential to be a political weapon used by governments at home and abroad. Regardless, all sets are set on you, the coin holder. Digital money. I actually think that Bitcoin has given up on being digital money. Most people think of it as digital gold. So why is that? We're all concerned about our lack of privacy online. Who's tracking whom? Who's selling what data about you to whom? I'd imagine that most of you use browsers like Brave and search engines like Presearch. These are the basics, and that's a good start. But privacy is also a key component of sovereign money too. Without privacy, you can't have fungibility, which is one of those words you hear a lot, but sometimes don't know what it means. It simply means that one asset can be exchanged for the other, and they are completely interchangeable. You can't tell between them. BTC is not fungible because of the tainted coins issue we mentioned a few minutes ago. Without fungibility, it cannot be money in the true sense of the word. Don't believe me? Here's Adam Back, a core Bitcoin developer and CEO of Blockstream, talking about fungibility and how it relates to the Silk Road.
And yet this kind of effect that people multiple hops removed from you who are sending you Bitcoins, if they are associated with some trade on Silk Road or something like that, it turns out that some of the exchanges and hosted wallets are using sort of taint tracing services, and up to 4 hops deep away from you, if something is associated with the Silk Road, they will freeze your account and ask you to take your funds and your custom elsewhere. So that, if you look at it from this perspective, the reality is that for people using those services, fungibility in Bitcoin is actually worse than PayPal, because other people's actions which have got nothing to do with you, and you have essentially potentially no connection whatsoever with, 4 hops away is a very long way away. I dare say, potentially just about anybody with Bitcoins in their wallet who have done a few trades are within 4 hops of, anybody in the Bitcoin ecosystem potentially. It's a very interconnected system, like the kind of social networking theory that you're 13 hops from anybody globally. In a Bitcoin network, it's a smaller collection of wallets.
Pretty scary, huh? And he's considered one of the godfathers of Bitcoin. There's even some speculation that he's Satoshi himself, but I don't believe that. Even he doesn't think Bitcoin is good digital money, so I think we can conclude the same. Today, Bitcoin Core is no longer a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. I classify it as an intermediary-to-intermediary electronic gold system. BTC maxis will say that the lack of capability in the Bitcoin network is a feature, not a bug, and they have this special thing called the Lightning Network for payments. Coming back to the diagrams we showed at the start, this is what Bitcoin with the Lightning Network would look like. So, what is Lightning? Lightning is a, quote, layer 2 solution for Bitcoin. What that means in English is that transactions that happen on Lightning are not automatically settled on the Bitcoin network. It was designed to bring a payments capability to Bitcoin by speeding up Bitcoin transactions. By making transactions faster, the Lightning Network significantly improves the usability of Bitcoin for everyday purchases. Reducing transaction fees. The Lightning Network lowers the costs associated with transactions, making them more affordable for both users and businesses. Improving scalability. The network helps Bitcoin handle a larger number of transactions simultaneously, addressing a key limitation of the blockchain. Enabling microtransactions. By allowing users to make small payments, the Lightning Network opens the door to new use cases and applications. Enhancing privacy. Transactions on the Lightning Network are not recorded on the public blockchain, which provides increased privacy for users. That all sounds great in theory, but when you dig into how it's achieved, cracks start to appear. So how does it work? The Lightning Network works by creating off-chain payment channels between users. These channels allow users to transact with each other without having to record each transaction on the main blockchain. Instead, only the net result of their transactions is occasionally recorded, reducing the overall burden on the network. Opening a Lightning channel is a process that involves creating a connection between 2 users, which allows them to transact with each other off-chain. Here's how it's done. First, you choose a counterparty. To open a channel, you need to choose a counterparty, which is another user with whom you'd like to transact. This could be someone you frequently transact with or a well-connected node on the Lightning Network. Next, fund the channel. Both parties need to fund the channel by depositing a certain amount of coins into a multi-sig or multi-signature wallet. A multi-sig wallet requires signatures from both parties to spend the funds. The amount of coin deposited by each party determines the channel's capacity. Third, create the funding transaction. The parties create a funding transaction that sends the agreed-upon amount of coins to the multi-sig wallet. This transaction is broadcast to the main Bitcoin blockchain, where it's confirmed by miners. This step requires a regular on-chain transaction fee, but the channel will be off-chain once it's open. Fourth, establish the channel state. Once the funding transaction was confirmed, the channel state is established. This state keeps track of the current balance between the two parties. Initially, the channel state reflects the funds each party contributed to the multi-sig wallet. Fifth, update channel state. As the two parties transact with each other, they update the channel state accordingly. They exchange and sign new balance sheets that redistribute the funds in the multi-sig wallet. These updates are not broadcasted to the main blockchain, which allows for fast and low-cost transactions. Finally, monitor the channel. Both parties should monitor the channel to ensure the other party is not attempting to cheat by broadcasting an old, more favorable channel state. If a party detects any malicious activity, they can use a penalty transaction to claim all funds in the multi-sig wallet as a punishment. The channel remains open until either party decides to close it, at which point the final channel state is broadcasted to the main blockchain. The funds in the multi-sig wallet are then distributed back to the respective parties according to the final channel balance. So, how's it doing? Given the amount of hassle involved in all of the above, it's not doing particularly well. Launched in March 2018, as of April 2023, it has less than 5,000 coins out of 19 plus million locked-in channels. That's less than 0.03% of coins in circulation. 5,000 out of 19 million? Seriously? After 5 years, the adoption of Lightning is 50% less than last year. Ask your favorite laser-eyed maxi on Twitter what they have to say about that. You'll see headlines like, Lightning adoption surges 50%, but when you're starting from such a low base, that's pretty misleading. After an initial surge in 2018, adoption has slowed to a crawl, and by most measures, it's seen as a failure, particularly when you compare it to overall crypto adoption over the same period. So, why is it failing, and why will it never be what it's being sold to you as? There are 3 categories that this failure sits on. We don't have time to dig into all of them, but we really don't need to discount it as the future of money and payments. These categories are fundamental challenges, technical challenges, and philosophical challenges. So let's start with the fundamental ones. The first is the onboarding challenge. Lightning is hobbled by the speed of the Bitcoin network. This tweet from Jess Quit sums it up correctly. With some basic assumptions around network capacity and what percentage of these are used to onboard new users versus existing users, to onboard everyone living today would take an incredible 500 plus years. Even if we discounted that and said only adults would need to do it, it would still be something like 350 years. It's ridiculous, a complete non-starter. The other fundamental challenge is that it totally ignores how people live in most of the world. What percentage of the world actually has some savings and aren't living month to month, paycheck to paycheck? Even in rich countries like the US, it's been reported that a significant portion of the population does not have enough savings to cover a month's worth of living expenses. What does the rest of the world look like? It's hard to find data on this, but I'm pretty sure most of the world is not in a position to lock up money in a payment channel forever. So, even without going into the technical and philosophical challenge, the case for Lightning is built on pretty shaky foundations. At this point, you'll normally hear the Bitcoin maxis going, well, we've got scale, we're winning anyway, nobody can match us. Remember Betamax? It was way better than VHS, but VHS won. And while you can't argue with that notion, because Bitcoin is the biggest today, you also have to ask yourself why you don't wander around each day and pay with gold in the shops. As a use case, digital gold is limited. I suspect that at some point in the future, the cryptocurrency that has the use case of money is going to be a multitude of orders of magnitude bigger than Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is incapable of being peer-to-peer electronic cash, or Lightning is a rich man's folly, how do we get what the world really needs? An actual peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Let's remind ourselves what paying in cash looks like. If we can achieve this with cryptocurrency, then we have the holy grail. You pay the person directly. There's no middleman, no intermediary. Nobody knows the transaction is happening except you and the person you're transacting with. And once the transaction is complete, there's no trace of it. When we're talking about how Bitcoin could become digital money, we talked about its lack of privacy and fungibility. But it's not just these that matter when you want good money. There are a whole host of other things that are key to good money. So what are they? We went through an exercise where we looked at everything that has been done before, right the way back from the creation of tally sticks all the way to the most recent fiat currencies, and everything that we've learned from the brilliant attempts to build unconfiscatable cryptocurrencies in the last 14 years. We took all the best ideas and distilled them down to a list of 28 essential features. And here they are. It's a bit small to read, but let me read on a few of them that are pertinent to us. Private by default, decentralized, fungible, surveillance resistant, politically resistant, censorship resistant, confiscation resistant. To be perfect, unconfiscatable, superior money, you need to tick all 28 of these boxes, and that's why we built Epic Private Internet Cash, or Epic Cash. It's the first step in building a digital money system that's free from tyranny, free for everyone to use without needing to look over their shoulders, without fear of being canceled, censored, or retaliated against. Epic ticks all of these boxes. If you wanted the one-line summary for Epic, it's what Satoshi would build today if he were building Bitcoin using today's technology and all of the lessons learned over the past 15 years from thousands of altcoins, including BTC itself. Like Bitcoin when it began, Epic is a community-driven project. There is no corporation, and we're all volunteers who believe in financial freedom. Anyone can be a part. Epic is an open, borderless, neutral, permissionless peer-to-peer payment network that enables people to pay anyone, anywhere, anytime, any amount, for any reason, privately, and nobody can stop the network or block any individual from using it. Transactions complete in 1 minute and cost less than a penny. Within 5 years, the network will be able to handle over 1 billion transactions a day, and that's just the start. Even today, it can handle over 4 times the capacity of Bitcoin without needing a layer 2 solution like Lightning or Liquid. More importantly, it's the first building block and cornerstone of a new financial system that's freed from the mistakes of the past. Coming back to the 4 characteristics we outlined in Bitcoin that it fails at, here's how Epic succeeds. Trustless peer-to-peer. Epic was designed for non-custodial operation. That means that you're not relying on a custodian like an exchange to hold your Epic safe for you. If you want Epic, you can go and buy it on a non-KYC decentralized exchange or mine it yourself, and then easily send it to your desktop or mobile wallet. Once it's in your wallet, you can send it directly to anyone else with an Epic wallet. The network is already fast and cheap, running for over 3 years, with 100% uptime since April 2021. No failures like Solana or Ethereum or pretty much any other of these early blockchain networks. It costs less than 1/10 of a cent to send a transaction versus BTC's $2 to $81. That's right, $2 to $81. $81 in December 2017 and $63 as recently as April 2021. It's designed to scale and get faster as needed without ever needing a layer 2 scaling solution. Within 5 years, as I said, it will be capable of doing over 1 billion transactions a day. And beyond that, tens of billions is within reach. Truly enough capacity for all of the world. You will never need to hold your Epic on an exchange, and you'll never need an intermediary to send it through. Today, you can download the full blockchain to your wallet in under 20 minutes, where you can rely on using an external node and start transacting immediately. Epic is designed to be truly trustless and operate peer-to-peer. Unconfiscatable. With Epic, there are no wallet addresses and no transactions to view on the blockchain. I know it doesn't sound possible, but it is. Epic uses a protocol called Mimblewimble to achieve this level of magic. It's a privacy and scalability-focused cryptocurrency protocol that increases scalability and confidentiality by employing elliptic curve cryptography, transaction aggregation, and a compact blockchain structure. It's very clever stuff. When you're bored one day and want to fill a few hours, you should look it up. Visit t.me/FreemanU, Freeman University on Telegram to learn more. Unlike Bitcoin Core, with Epic, you can't have tainted coins because every time you spend an Epic, it's reminted as a fresh coin. No transaction history is visible. So if there's no wallet addresses and no transactions on the blockchain explorer to see what's being spent, Aside from cryptographic kernel residue that reveals no information about the transaction unless you were the one who did the transaction, nobody will ever know if you own it. If they don't know you own it, they can't take it from you. It's that simple. Decentralized. Today, Epic has nodes in 129 countries. That's 40 more than the 89 that BTC has, and Epic has only been in existence since 2019. Why is this? Firstly, the Epic blockchain is small and lightweight, at only 5 gigabytes versus 500 gigabytes for BTC. You don't need a massive computer to run a node. In fact, it's small enough to fit on a smartphone, so one day there could be billions of Epic nodes. Secondly, the Epic protocol uses something called polyphasic proof of work. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what that means is that Epic miners currently use 3 different algorithms to mine Epic. You don't need any special Chinese hardware to mine Epic. You can do it on your home computer. And if there's a new and better algorithm that's developed in the future, we can drop it in the mix. Epic is designed to evolve as technology evolves, unlike Bitcoin Core that's more or less stuck in 2008. The Epic blockchain protocol isn't perfect yet, and some would argue that we don't have enough mining pools, and I'd agree. However, we're on a path that will lead us to be the most decentralized blockchain network the world has ever seen. Finally, digital money. I think we've covered this well already. Epic is private, fungible, and has all the other 28 attributes of good digital money. More importantly, we passed the cash test. This sentence on the screen works for both Cash and Epic Cash. You pay the person directly. There's no middleman, no intermediary. Nobody knows the transaction is happening except you and the person you're transacting with. And once the transaction is complete, there's no trace of it. So, if you're looking for actual peer-to-peer electronic cash, look no further than Epic. Currently, we have over 300 volunteers contributing from around the world. If you'd like to join us and help us on our mission, or simply buy some coins, come check us out. We're a warm, welcoming bunch. We have big plans, and with your help, we'd love to reach more people and get there faster. To learn more, please head to epic.tech. Thanks for listening.